Spring Television. Ours it is.
Good morning and welcome to the show this morning. It's Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is, when it drops and from where it drops. My name is Emmanuel Lujandigele. Thank you so much for starting your day with us.
Thank you for starting your day with us. Thanks for joining us on the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television this morning. And what we do is to bring you what's trending in the country, what is going on around you. And this is the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television.
All right, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things happening in the country at the moment.
Yes.
So many election fallout.
Yes.
So many policy fallouts. And it seems that the ordinary people, the ordinary Nigerians are the ones bearing the brunt of some of these things. I mean, still can't. I regrettably bought 5,000 naira with 800 yesterday. Yeah, and there are places where it's even more exorbitant than that.
Why did you regret the action, Emmanuel?
I could have done other things with the 800 naira. You know. It used to be 5,100. 100 naira per 5,000. But now it was 150 the previous day, 150 per 1,000. But then all of a sudden, it's
just escalated again.
And that means that we are still buying our own currencies in the country. It's not very good for us.
Let's hope that the CBN will live up to what they've said. But we'll be discussing that on the video.
Let's hope that the CBN will make good on its promise. But then we have the papers for you. After this break, we'll bring you to them. All right, so let's start with the papers for you now. Let's start with the papers for you. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper. And on the front page of the Punch newspaper, the banner headline this morning says, NLC protests CBN to flood banks with old Naira notes. Banks get 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira notes from CBN today to prevent NLC action. Emefiele orders end to cash withdrawal limit during meeting with bank CEOs.
Well, I think that the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, deserves to be lashed. I don't know why you have to wait till this time. I mean, we said it that suddenly this week, the queues just tripled, not just doubled. I mean, the queues are longer and people are lamenting. I think it's longer because there are people who have come to the banks, who have gone to the banks to complain about the transaction failures and all that. And it's really been frustrating for people. What's in the street are going around that, people are, expending more to get less. I mean, you have to travel down with about 1,000 Naira or two, only to come and get 2,000 Naira, sometimes 1,000 Naira. I mean, that's really ridiculous. And Emefiele didn't deem it fit to, to be put to action by the plights of those people.
Well,
just wait until this time. It's really bad.
He actually gave an apology that I felt was silly.
Yes.
It was a very silly apology, apologizing for the failure of bank transactions.
Yeah.
And I have not, the 2,000 Naira I told you about, I have not gotten it as we speak, and it's about 2 weeks. And the person who sent it was telling me that she suffered some sort of embarrassment because she paid someone, the woman didn't get the money, and she thought she had been duped. But eventually the transaction was processed 4 days after. So you begin to wonder if it was an emergency, how they would have coped and all of that, if you had to pay for hospital bills or something in that regard.
I don't think he knows the gravity of things going on in the country, because people have lost people due to this cash crunch. And many things have just, gone wrong with all of this. But I hope that he's going to actually flood, not just release few notes, flood banks, with these old Naira notes and even the new ones. And
it will take, what's it called now? It will take a threat of protest and picketing of CBN offices to force the CBN to do this. it's really
no.
annoying.
Yes.
And like you said, he deserves whatever lashing is coming his way, both by Nigerians, angry Nigerians, and all of that.
Yes.
Well, at the bottom strip of the paper, UK to list electoral offenders, plans sanctions. Page 27 of the Punch newspaper. I'm wondering, like I said yesterday on the street, if the louts and hooligans on the street of Lagos will also find their names on this list. I want to see what parameters will be used to list out electoral offenders.
Well, I believe that when you get those at the bottom of it, those people are not exactly the problems. You know, the problem is that they have people who are backing their actions, you know, either, you know, or secretly. They are, and that's the problem. I believe that the names that will make it to this list are the names of people that are well known to be sponsors or somehow, you know, godfathers of these thugs. And once those people are named, those ones will be checked. And so it does not necessarily have to be the thugs themselves, because they may not make their names may not make it to the list. But these people, I believe that even in Nigeria here, believe that the government knows them, but, you know, due to one thing or the other, they may not, like we've always, you know, experienced in the country, they may not do anything, you know, turning your face, you know, to the other side, just so, you know, some things will slide. That's wrong. It's wrong for the government, it's wrong for the politics, it's wrong for every reason. And, but I believe that, I hope, let me put it that way, that the UK would make good on this, and that you know, proper sanctions will be given, at least relating to their own country.
Well, we hope to see that. I would love to see the Ivorians on that list too, so that they can also, because some persons have somebody who was on tape saying, if you are this person, you are this and that, don't come vote, has his children in the United States, but is here making life difficult for other people's children.
We have our own country being complacent, and we have the international communities, you know, taking action. Yes, taking actions. We would sit up, because these people, they don't even have their medical, you know, treatments here. They go on medical tourism all the time. And if you know that those people, I mean, the outside community is very important to your development, you would do things better in your own country. At least you would put more in your country. You would not destroy your country just to run outside anytime you feel like it. So when they send their own kids back to them in this country, they will learn to put this place in order and not disturb the peace of the country.
All right, we look forward to a day where that will happen.
Yes.
On page 8 of the Punch newspaper, there's an explanation there. There've been so many rumors about President-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but an aide of his is saying Tinubu away for lesser Hajj and rest. Well, the man deserves some rest. The rigors of the campaign.
Yes, outside of health issues or anything. I mean, rigors of campaign, the election, it's going to take a toll. And if he has this big project, Nigeria, before him, he really needs to rest, because after this time, when he gets there, when the day he gets sworn in, there's no rest for the next 4 years, really. If he's going to live up to, we're going to restructure Nigeria and all that, you know, that he has been promising, he has to rest now that he has the time. Now is the time to rest, really.
Yes, now is the time to rest. And away from that, some of the inconclusive elections already been declared. Jubilation as Oti wins Abia, PDP retains Enugu. Page 13 of the Punch newspaper this morning. That's a long time coming. On Tuesday or thereabout, Monday or Tuesday, elections were declared inconclusive. Monday, actually. And 2 days after, we finally know the winners of the elections. That's good.
Yes, that's good for the Labour Party and the PDP.
And then in the next few days, the legal fireworks will begin.
Yes.
And then we'll begin to see who the courts would remove and who the courts will affirm. Interesting days ahead.
Yes.
Above the nameplate, 146 National Assembly candidates petition tribunals in 12 states. As on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. 146 National Assembly candidates petition tribunals in 12 states. big petitions there.
Yes.
Oyo and Osun already having 34 tribunals reported by the Punch. And tribunal petitions was reported by the Punch yesterday. It's good that people are exploring legal means to,
shut out the differences and grievances. That's really good.
On page 13, Buhari Islamic Council preach love as Ramadan begins. Ramadan Kareem to all our viewers and all our listeners.
The Muslim faithfuls out there. I mean, I hope that this period is going to bring peace and some sort of unity and calm in the country.
I think it's even iconic that it is coming in this time. It's going to douse a lot of, because people are busy trying to be pious, trying to fast and seek the face of God. So they may not have time to get into all of those shenanigans and causing mayhem. It's really good that's coming this time. Well, away from that, on page 19, the Federal Executive Council okays 454 billion naira for Kano Niger Republic. What is our obsession
with Niger?
With Niger Republic. I don't know.
Well, for one, they're a sister country, and I think particularly, our president has some sort of interests there. We don't know what it is, but he just does.
We're just, I mean, I don't know. So most of our policies have been Niger Republic, Lake Chad. And the rail system is not even fully functional in the country. We have low security on the rail lines, bandits and all of that. It's I don't know.
It just calls for some lots of questions.
One day we'll know what is between Buhari and Niger Republic.
Of course.
One day. But that was that on the Punch newspaper at this point.
All right, quickly to the Daily Trust. We have the headline saying, CBN releases mopped up old notes to banks today. And the riders, as NLC threatens mass action, despite 1 trillion naira in circulation, cash crunch persists. Rush for Ramadan shopping amidst naira scarcity, price hike. Wow, that's another angle to it that we've not looked at. You know? I mean, people are going to be fasting, so it's not about the patience now or the endurance. You really can't endure hunger at this period. I mean, when you're seeking God's face, you have to go into seclusion and but then really they need money now, and thank God that the limit has ended. Yes, and so people can get some money this time to shop at least for all of this. But then the price hike, I don't know. There's really no way out of this for now. People who have wares on ground and cannot afford to get some other one will surely, raise the prices of the ones they have. And we really can't blame them at this period.
No, you can't.
We can't at all. They've lost money as well, because some people who are selling perishable goods have lost a lot of money because they cannot sell. They need cash, and some that wanted to sell, I mean, transaction failures. Like yesterday, I wanted to make a buy, and the transaction did not go through. I had to leave. And so some of these things, the factors are really high. And so it's not enough for the CBN governor to just come and give some sort of apology. He really needs to face everything that's going on now, really.
Yes, he needs to. He needs to. We need to see decisive actions.
Yes.
We need to see proper policies.
Measures taken.
We need to see that.
Yes. And so away from that, just below that headline, Atiku to tribunal, declare me president-elect or cancel poll. Well, that's funny.
I like the prayers of Atiku. It shows that he knows what the courts are all about. It's not a small player in the political scene. having begun his contesting from 2007 or thereabout.
And this is looking like forced retirement for him.
Right. And to contest for presidency.
Yes.
I mean, since 2007, that's over 13 years, about 16.
It's really, I mean, I feel for Atiku.
Yes, I
really
do
feel for him. Well, that's on page 11 to get more details on that particular story. In governorship elections, Labour Party wins Abia, PDP retains Enugu. And like we said, it's victory for Labour Party,
yes,
and PDP. And that's also on page 11. Federal government to install facial recognition in airports, and that's on page 23. So I think that's a good move. But I hope that other things that are more or that are instrumental to the functionality of this
safety,
would be implemented.
Place,
yes,
because it's not just about just about the facial recognition, the power to continue to keep that system online,
working,
the internet connection, the database that you need.
Yes.
We don't even have a database here.
That's the most important one right now.
So if I go to the airport, I may not even be recognized. The facial recognition may not work for me because we don't have a unified database.
I remember during the elections, the beavers identified me as male. And not female, and so all those discrepancies in data need not be there at this time. So it's a good one, but then there are lots of things tied to this, and if the government can really make this good, then we can move a bit ahead of where we were. And then the bottom strip says intrigues that led to emergence of NNPP's Yusuf as Kano governor-elect. And that is on page 3 of the Daily Trust. And just below the nameplate, poultry industry faces total collapse after multiple shocks.
Yes, that was one of the casualties. One of the casualties of the cash crunch. People who could not sell their eggs, the eggs they make at their poultries.
Yes.
Birds were dying. There wasn't money to buy food for them. Major casualty of the cash crunch.
Yes.
People ran into millions of naira in loss. I mean, at some point, I know people who were trying to. There was a guy on Twitter who was trying to sell a crate of egg or something for as low as 2,000, 2,300. I mean, it was at a price that it was at a ridiculous price. He just wanted to clear off what he had. At least
it's better to make some money than losing all.
And now they're facing a total collapse. Where do you want all of those people to start?
Emefiele. This is part of your...
This is on you.
One of your doings, yes. Well, I just hope that industry can bounce back. I don't know. The government rather, should also, give out loans and grants at this period, because people need to bounce back. Just imagine how many people from this industry alone, the poultry, and even just some other aspects of agriculture that would have lost their jobs, lost their businesses, not just... It's really been bad. It has. And we have a long way to go from here now.
A very long way is what we have to go, honestly, from here.
Right, more of that story is on page 25. And moving on to page 6 of the Daily Trust, Buhari cautions against price hike as Ramadan begins today. Can you imagine that? The president is cautioning against price hike.
Yes, some persons,
there's really no, I don't know.
Some persons actually take undue advantage of the situation.
Of course. But then
for some, it's just a means to meet up and to not run at total loss. It's really scary.
I know. There's really no way around it. There's going to be price hike, and that is our reality now. These people, just imagine it. Okay, it might be the importers or maybe the warehouses that are disbursing these things. They also faced a lot. You might have had those goods on ground, no doubt, but the cash crunch has forced the hands of a lot of things that had gone wrong. that are not supposed to have gone wrong, but they have gone wrong. And I don't expect the president to be cautioning against price hike or to be giving it out like this, even if he were to speak against
You should appeal to them.
You should appeal, exactly. You have to appeal to people at this period. You can't just, expect some level of things right now. Your expectations, these people have been disappointed. You've cut down their expectations, you've cut it short, and you are expecting that they will still remain. Look at the poultry. If I have few eggs left, I would want to make my money on those eggs. That's how it is. I remember on Rave 91.7 FM, that Femi's program, it brought a particular poultry man who had a poultry business, and the man was saying normally he has a month feed at hand, but as at that time, I think that was last week or 2 weeks ago, as at that time he was having just a week worth of feed. And so what happens to the rest of March? And we've not even reached the end of March yet. So what happens to those birds? They would die, because it says that thousands of birds are picked every day, already dead. So they have to cut down on feeds. They have to, just imagine that. And how are you expecting that there won't be price hike on whatever he has left? And so I believe that the president and every other stakeholder should appeal to people, not caution them. They can't be cautioned right now. That's not the word.
I don't think anybody will listen to reason right now.
Yes. And so just up above that, still in captivity are the 11 schoolgirls of FGC Paniyari, and they've spent 646 days in captivity, and a student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, who has spent 622 days. We're still appealing to the federal government. We are not cautioning the federal government. We are
You're not towing the line of the president now.
We are appealing, please.
Help us
Get
these
these people out of captivity to be reunited with their families, and even others that have been kidnapped recently. Please. Right. That's all on the Daily Trust.
Okay, we move quickly to the Guardian newspaper. Article to Tribunal, declare me winner or order rerun. The riders there, Labour Party's OT, PDP Zimbabwe in Abia Enugu polls. Adamawa, INEC to conduct rerun in 69 polling units. Don't swear in Tinubu, Shatima Dati cautions. Receive Ahmed Baba Dati is the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party. Below that paper, the bottom strip there, healing can't happen without justice. Rodfago replies Tinubu. As Tinubu's call for healing yesterday generated a lot of concerns, a lot of comments, and people saying that his statement about mischaracterization and ethnic profiling is medicine after death. You understand that could have been a possibility in the elections, and you should have spoken against it before the election and not after it has happened. You're just pandering to
ethnic bigotry and all. We're going on the ethnic issues were going on hot, even used as campaign strategies. You didn't speak out then. It's after the election. It just speaks to selfishness and
I think it's tone deafness and selective attention. That's what I feel it is. You like one of our guests was saying yesterday, you can't condemn what is your own campaign strategy. You can't do that. If a particular party sees that this is how we will win this election, they'll keep doing it. They'll keep using that strategy. So you can't, and you don't expect a major player in that party to come out to condemn that. Right. Well, we'll move on to page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Blame yourself for your defeat, PDP chieftain tells Namani. On Monday and Tuesday, we witnessed what can be referred to as the meltdown of Chimaroke Namani. And somebody said on Twitter that Namani went to sleep after the result, woke up and began to attack Peter Obi and Labour Party. He must have had some very strong nightmares. I mean, the man he just went on and close to 20 tweets. He just went on and on with big words, trying to, I don't know. You are in the PDP. You lost. You're in the PDP.
Yeah.
You lost on the platform of the PDP. What is your business with PDP? I mean, yes, the man campaigned for his own candidate against you. It's not his fault. If you had done enough for your people, they would have returned you.
Yeah, just like Shea Mark in this case.
They would have returned you.
I would have loved, sincerely,
to see him lose because of the G5 politics.
Yes, but then it also speaks that you have to put some things in place when you want to do some other things.
Yes.
You have to have bigger stakes to do some things. He had that. He had already satisfied his people.
Yes.
And the people were not concerned about party politics.
Yes.
They were concerned about their own destinies.
Yes.
Exactly. So, but in Amani's case, was totally different.
I would love to see the end to his meltdown. Somebody was suggesting that I suggested that they seize his phone. Just take the phone, reset the password, and so he doesn't have access to his Twitter, because that meltdown. I pictured him sitting on the chair and screaming at the phone. And no.
Yeah.
But now the PDP, yes, now the PDP is saying that you lost your election by yourself. You should blame yourself for your defeat.
That's very true.
Yes, and just still on the front page of The Guardian, there's a graphic representation there of the governorship election results. States won by parties. 15 states for the APC out of the 28 states where elections held. 15 for the APC, 9 for the PDP, 1 for the NNPP, 1 for the Labour Party. That's a total.
Something.
Yes, that's a total of 26. There are about 26 states.
Yes,
still have Adamawa coming, and one other state. And below the nameplate, NLC threatens strike as CBN orders banks to come for old notes. All of the talks about old notes being burnt or shredded was just CBN lying to us, or so it means that they still have the old notes.
Maybe. Yes, that's just the truth. And but you would expect that excuses will be given for this.
Well, we'll find out what the excuses are. We'll find out what the excuses are.
But I wish that the NLC still goes ahead with the strike.
Yes. I wish to see that too. I think we'll join the strike too. So there will be no money in spring for.
There will be money in spring.
And on page 3, world leaders hail Elumelu's impact on Nigeria, Africa, and economy. On page 4, scientists link hormonal contraceptives with breast cancer. And on page 5, Ramadan fasting begins today. Congratulations to all our Muslim faithful, our Muslim folks. We hope that the season is a season for reflection, and not a season for what's it called now? Seasonal abstinence from vices.
Yes.
Some persons see it as this is 30 days or thereabout. I'm not doing these, and then afterwards, if you're going to stop it in 30 days, it means that you can actually stop it.
Long-term thing, yes.
So just take it long-term.
All right, let's quickly run through the Nation newspaper. And the headline says, workers draw battle line over lingering Naira crisis. And NLC directs picketing of CBN offices. Apex Bank plans return of old notes. I
mean, I still get bothered when I see that the CBN still has old notes. It's intriguing.
It's wrong. That's what we should say. It's wrong to do this. And I think also that, well, I can't blame the NLC. You have to give someone a long rope, and then when he fails to use it, then you take action. I wanted to say that the NLC even came, late, reacted late, but then it's also good. Nobody would say that they rushed into things because they wanted to go on strike and all that. Nobody would gainsay them. And so this is coming at a very good time. And I don't want this CBN statement to stop them. Yes, they really should go on with the strike. And it's needed. It's needed. And just below that, Labour Party wins Abia. PDP takes Enugu. Oti Umba are governors-elect. Congratulations to them both. And just beside that, 7 in battle for Senate President. And North Central, Northwest joins Southeast, South-South in race for top office.
Again, politicking and politicians all over the place, all over the place.
Yes, and this is a season. And the bottom strip says alleged cocaine deal. Court rejects Abba Kyari's orders. Request to void charges.
Very
That's
good one
on
there.
page 3.
Can't void the charges. You have to go through them. You have to be prosecuted. If you are found not guilty, good for you.
And
If you're found wanting, the law should take its course. Yes.
all right, just below the nameplate, article to court. Declare me winner to order rerun. The PDP candidate lists grounds against results. Well, if he can battle that out by very strong evidences that the president-elect has something to go through.
Yes.
Well, just above that, my victory, a call to do more, says Makinde. Well, I hope he can do that. And stay on the good side of history this time.
People, yes.
And that's on page 2. Fake okays 459.08 billion naira for ministry and DLE. And that story is on page 3. And just above the nameplate, facial recognition technology for major airports. Right, that's on page 11 as well. And 19 Lagos train bus accident, victims still on admission. Well, we don't know how.
It's been a very long battle to get back to premium health.
It was a very sad event and incident, and 19 people are still on admission. We hope that they will have full recovery, make full recovery out of this, and that they do not die. And then just beside that, president-elect for Paris, London, Saudi Arabia. That's on page 3.
He deserves to rest and holiday a little bit before the office problems will take him away. Yes, he really deserves the rest. Every of them, all of the candidates.
I only hope that we don't have a repeat of the past.
The early days of Buhari.
Yes, early days in office. We hope that it will be here and be here in good health then. Buhari Sultan urged Muslims to reflect Islam's virtues. But that's a good one coming from the Sultan
it's not
and the president.
It's not cautioning them to. He's urging them.
He's urging them. Yes. I hope that they can take this to heart and even way beyond the Ramadan period, just like we said. But that's all on the newspaper reveals this morning.
Yes, that's what we have for you on the papers this morning. When we get back, we're speaking to our guests to look at the petitions that have been submitted to the tribunals and look at some of the reasons behind them and some of the prayers of this candidate, Peter Obi of the Labour Party and Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, already in court. Stay with us.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. I packed A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and past, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West. And Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
Fun facts I bet you never knew about Christianity.
Number 1, there are over 2.4 billion Christians worldwide.
Amazing fun fact number 2. The Bible is one of the best-selling books of all time, with more than 100 million copies sold every year.
Most Christians believe
the Bible is the most translated book in the world, with more than 3,000 languages.
Amazing fun fact number 5. Number 5. Most Christians throw science out of the window without realizing that most scientists are Christians. Hello, I am Pastor Steve Akinwumi.
And I am Dr. Adeoye Oyewole.
Join us as we highlight and discuss day-to-day issues pertaining to the day-to-day living of every Christian.
Issues in Christendom shows every Sunday on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930.
All right, good morning. Welcome back to the show. It's been almost a month since 2 days. 2 days will make it a month since the February 25th presidential elections and results have been announced. And so the disgruntled runners-up have decided to head to court while the president-elect talking about the prayers of some of the disgruntled candidates as they've submitted at the tribunal. Well, this morning we're joined live in the studio by the coordinator of the Obi-Wise Council of Clergies here in Osun State, Bishop Seun Adeoye. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So first of all, let me start with your assessment of the election. Your candidate lost out in the February 25th election. How do you assess the process?
Well, lost out. I'm going to give that to INEC. But as a matter of fact, if you look at that election, of course, we're going to realize that there are a lot of issues concerning it. Okay, let me comment this way. I was an observer during that election. I was one of the observers of Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN. And of course, the process appeared to be okay, particularly when it came to the issue of the National Assemblies, that's the House of Representatives and the Senate. But then when it came to the issue of the presidential, then we started hearing stories. And you see, that alone will make some of us to think that something is wrong along the line. If the process that they had used, though it was the same day, this same day, if the same process that they used continue with the presidential election, the announcement of the presidential result, possibly we wouldn't have had it this way. And then somehow you started seeing a lot of results being manipulated online. Maybe they are right or not. And when you begin to see that, you feel that something is wrong with the entire system. Something is wrong with the whole system, particularly the presidential election. And that's why we agree with those who are gone to court. And like I always inform people, I'm a political scientist too. like I always inform people that election itself doesn't end in the day of the ballot. Election doesn't also end the day the announcement is made. The election ends at the court. But even in America, you can realize that when Trump lost the election, you see some other people going to court here and there to ensure to see that possibly maybe it can be changed or not. And if you look at Nigeria at large, you are going to realize that the court has made good pronouncement that has led to a removal of some people in office, and that has even helped some people to remain in office. So to me, I think it's a good idea that those who are going to court are in court instead of going to war. They, of course, take another step in ensuring to see maybe that the mandate given to one of them, one of the candidates will be reviewed. But as far as I'm concerned, I think my candidate, that's Peter Obi, well, in Yoruba, I don't know how to say it in English, but Yoruba people will say Fakoyo. What it means is that he really proved a point.
But do you think he won the election?
Well, with my position, it will be difficult for me to say that he wins the election. But let the court look at what is before the court. Let us see that.
As an election observer, you said you observed the elections. Yeah. What exactly were the things you noticed on the day of the election, especially maybe from your polling unit or the units that you observed? What stood out that could be instrumental to this suit?
Well, the election was not really funny. Let me say it's funny anyway, because there are 3 elections. After the whole process was done, there was this announcement, and then the counting began. Where I monitor election, in fact, it was in a rural place in Osun State here. I realized that in the House of Representatives, the Labour Party scored votes, whereas other political parties, I think, one scored 136. That's PDP scored 136, and APC scored, I think, 108 or so. Then when it came to the senatorial election, the Labour Party scored just 6 votes. Then the other political parties, of course, shared the larger chunk of the votes. But when it came to the presidential, I realized that Obi scored 21 votes. And so when you look at that in a rural community, it means there was a trend, possibly across Nigeria, that people are not really looking at the political parties, but they're looking at the candidates themselves. Because in a place where we have the House of Reps, the Senate scoring less than 10 votes, the House of Reps 2 votes, the Senate of Labour 2 votes, then we'll be scoring 21 votes in a rural community. That was a great trend. Then you're going to realize that if you go to the urban centers where the noise, where we have the youth, majority youths and the educated ones, you are going to realize when you go to those urban areas, Obi may likely perform very well. And if you look at the trend of the election, that was why you see what happened in Lagos and what happened in Abuja, because there's a concentration of where youth, educated people are. And that's what we see, and that's why you see the reflection in that election. But when they were transmitting the results, the House of Reps went well, the Senate went well. But when it came to the issue of transmitting the presidential, we now begin to hear issues. Then we need to talk to some others who are even not within the state, and they are reporting the same thing. The question is, if the House of Reps result will go as it is to IRF, or what they call it, and the senatorial will go, what happens to the presidential? If the announcement of the rep and the Senate were made at the appropriate time, why was that of the presidential delayed so much for so long? Why were there issues? These are the issues. These are the questions. I am not saying there may not have been issues with INEC, but what I expected INEC to have done was to come out immediately and say, look, we're having issues with this. We are going to sort it out. But in a situation where you put people on suspense, even if you are not rigging, even if you have not done anything wrong, people will begin to suspect you. And that was what really happened. And so we begin to suspect that something somewhere is wrong. And before you realize this, you begin to see results possibly being crossed here and there, and then you begin to see some of these things being posted on the internet, and then you wonder what really happened. where somebody is scoring 120, you are changing it to 12. You cross the 0, you change it to 12, then you add 0 to the other person, and you realize that one way or the other, something is wrong.
All right, so let's look at before we get to the petition proper now, let's look at the performance of your candidate in the last election.
Okay.
A lot of persons were saying that he was going to come a very distant third or even fourth behind Kwakwanso Atiku and Asiwaju Tinubu. But he made some inroads, particularly in Lagos, in Plateau, and in the northern state. What was responsible for his performance that way in the election?
I have told many people when I spoke online then, I wrote a lot of things. And it came to a point that even in Osun State here, we are just very few, very, very few that can openly speak out, particularly as a man of God. As a man of God, people felt that why should you be engaged in politics? But I told them that political decisions affects even the church, because all policies being made by those on top affects every one of us, including me. And we also realize that policies move around, policies being made by government affect everybody. No, I won't do that. In this question that you really ask, I told people that because many of them are armchair critics, they don't understand the trend, the campaign of Obi. And you are going to realize that Obi's campaign was not part of those who hired crowd. Everywhere he goes, it will be the people there, the same people there, the community that he meets. Then the second thing that many people do not understand is because the ruling party made a very, I can call it blunder. And the blunder was because the presidential candidate is a Muslim, the vice presidential candidate is also a Muslim. Of course, that's shifted a lot of votes to the side of Obi. You are not going to take that out. And that was what happened in Plateau State and in some other states. That's one. Two, you also realize that the PDP candidate is also a northerner. And then we're calling it that how can a Fulani northerner leaving a position and then giving the same thing to another Fulani northerner? Those have effects a lot on both the PDP and the APC. And people are also looking for, particularly youth, people are also looking for a new thing to happen. They are thinking that somebody should come and rescue Nigeria. All of them believe, I also believe, and we also know that APC, PDP, there are no difference between them. They are just virtually the same. But now somebody coming out even from them who claim and told you that I am neat, I am clean. Go back and check my record. This is what the youth want to hear. This is what people want to hear. Somebody like me also want to hear that. Because I'm a dreamer of a good Nigeria. I'm a dreamer of a better Nigeria. I'm a pan-Nigeria to the core. And I don't bother where you come from. What I saw we are saying. And that's why you see the trend. And I told people, some people would tell me and said, it's not there. It's not contesting. And I will tell them that if care is not taken, Obi will be declared as the winner of that election, because we know how it moves. We know the networking among associations, communities, and all of that. And this is the effect of what we have seen. But I'm surprised that Obi is not declared the winner. Still now, I'm still surprised.
Okay, so let's delve into the petitions now. On the grounds of the petitions, first of all, look at the fact that Obi is arguing that Tinubu, at the time of the presidential election, was not qualified to contest. And that ground is anchored, that claim is anchored on the grounds that Mr. Tinubu was fined $460,000 for an offense involving dishonesty, namely narcotics trafficking, imposed by the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, in case number 93C4483 between the United States of America and Bola Tinubu. There are some who say that that is in the U.S. It doesn't affect Nigeria. But there's some part of the Constitution Electoral Act that speaks to dishonesty, as that's been carved there by the petitioner, who is Peter Obi. How is this a ground for contesting Tinubu's legitimacy as a candidate?
Okay. We are told that one of the former governors of Nigeria and in person of Ibori, stole money from Nigeria and was jailed in US. We are told that former governor of Bayelsa State, I've forgotten his name, Alameshia, stole money from Nigeria and it was jailed in US. At the end of the day, the money they stole was repatriated to Nigeria. Look, the world is it's in a village. It's like in a village. Whatsoever that is wrong, possibly wrong in Nigeria, may be wrong at the other end. The issue of this narcotic drug money has been on for a very long time. If you are not guilty of an offense, you are not going to pay. You are not going to pay fine. It was because he was guilty of an offense, and he may have paid that to avoid going to jail, because there may be option. So even in Nigeria, if you have done, they will give you option. It's either you pay this fine, or you go to jail, or possibly you go to jail and you also pay the fine. So possibly what he did was to pay, not even possibly, what he did was to avoid jail and then pay the fine. The court pronounced him guilty there. That was involved in narcotic. And the question now is that, is he even sensible? Is it right for a Nigeria of 200 million people, for somebody that's involved in such a crime to lead a country? Is it right for somebody like that who was involved in narcotic, smuggling of heroin, to be president of someone like me, who had lived my life to struggle and to ensure that we have a better Nigeria? This is what we are saying. This is part of the, and not only me. Are you with me now? Then what picture are we going to paint to the international communities? That somebody who has been involved in such a manner, in such a crime,
with the proof being that there are court records of him being fined $160,000.
Of course, he has never denied that. There are a lot of issues that he has raised, even when this process was on. Later he said he was working in one place, then they dropped money in his account. He has never come out to deny that he was not involved in it. And there are documents everywhere. There are documents everywhere to prove that. And even his spokespersons too, people who have been speaking on his behalf, never denied that. What some of them are saying is that, well, it's even good now that possibly by the time the Supreme Court looks into this, the whole matter will be put to rest finally. But he has done it. He has never come out to say, no, I didn't do that. So if he has done that, let us test the law. Let us test Nigerian law. Let us test the Supreme Court. Let us test if we are part of this world or we are outside this world. Let us test if crime in Nigeria is no longer crime in America, or crime in America is no longer crime in Nigeria. Whatsoever that is crime here is crime elsewhere. Whatsoever crime is crime elsewhere is also crime here, particularly when it's come to the issue of drug. If he had done that in Saudi Arabia, then he wouldn't have been alive by now. If he had done that in Iran or some of these Islamic nations, he must have been beheaded. So he wouldn't have thought of coming to Nigeria to come and contest election. So let us try that in our law. Maybe it's going to work out or it's not going to work out. But to me, I believe Mr. Obi has done the right thing. Let us test the law and see maybe Mr. Tinubu is qualified to contest election or not. You know, there are a lot of things that surrounds Mr. Tinubu. And I grew to know that through one of the former governors of Osun State, that was Olagunsoye Inola, who will tell us that everything about Tinubu is false. His parents, his this, his that, and all of that. And then some of us as journalists, because I was a journalist. I worked with The Guardian for 15 years. I have my newspaper, and I became the chairman of NUJ in Osun State. And so we now begin to see what that man was saying. Is it right? We begin to fact check. Like some people will say, either this are right or not. We find out that some of these things he said are right. We're right. So let us test it, maybe it work or not. With Mr. Obi totally. Let us see, maybe a drug baron in US can come to Nigeria and become our president.
Well, there's also still the second ground, another ground, the non-qualification of Mr. Tinubu's running mate. That's Shettima Kashim now. The petitioner, your principal, cited his nomination for 2 separate constituencies. Now, as of the time Shettima accepted to be vice presidential candidate for Tinubu, he was senatorial candidate for Borno Central.
Yeah.
The same two nominations in the same electoral cycle, which some will say contravenes the Electoral Act. That you cannot. That's why some of the ministers and political appointees had to resign their positions to accept to accept the nomination. But Shettima later renounced his nomination as Borno Central candidate by a day or two after accepting the vice presidential nomination. Does this hold water?
Of course, if we look at the electoral law perfectly, of course, it holds water. In fact, it should be a main thing, the major thing to contend with, because you ought to have resigned a month before coming. But now this man was holding on to the same thing, was holding on to the ticket as a senator, and also at the same time holding on to accepting to serve as the vice president. Let's test that too. I believe it holds water. I believe it's a major thing to contend with. And I don't know how they are going to come out of this. And that's why I'm not smelling right. I'm smelling that the possibility of Mr. Obi getting to Aso Rock is very high. If Nigeria is still Nigeria.
All right, so let's move away from that. The petitioner also contended that Mr. Tinubu was not duly elected by majority of the lawful vote cast at the time of the election. He argued that Mr. Tinubu did not win the majority of lawful vote cast in each of at least 2/3 of the state of the Federation and the FCT. Now, this issue of the FCT has been recurring. There are court judgments on both sides of the law for this particular issue. How is Obi predicating or premising his petition on that if there are several judgments that are not even very clear now on this matter?
Well, I will also say this, that we need to also test the law. What really happened is that, in law, I'm not a lawyer, but I believe that if they are contending this in the court, they are going to look at the last pronouncement by the Supreme Court on matters like this. And the last pronouncement by the Supreme Court was that Abuja, that's the Federal Capital Territory, it's not a state. Cannot be compared as a state, as a full-blown state. If it's a state, they should have their governorship candidate, or they should have their governor. But now there's no governor with them. If it's a state, they should also have their state house of assembly. Abuja has no state of house of assembly. Abuja refers directly to the National Assembly. Now again, we are going to still stay our law and see how it's going to be effective. My only fear, let me say this, maybe before I move further, is that politicians make law for themselves. And why I say that is that it is very, very wrong for a court, for a matter to be in court. I am challenging somebody that you are not supposed to be in that position. The education to that matter ought to have ended before putting that person in a position. But in the case of Nigeria, even the matter will be on, the case will be on, the person you are contending with must have been sworn in and be on his seat. As at that time, he possessed a lot of power. Because when you are saying the president-elect will be on seat as president, having all the powers in the world. Because like I kept on telling people, the most powerful president in the world is the president of Nigeria. Not even the president of America. If you look at our constitution, because he can do anything. Look at the last time Buhari just came up and said, look, we are changing money. Even the National Assembly cannot stop him. And then they started all this wahala that they have to now. Now, the man is there on the seat. And you are telling me that you are going to unseat him. My friend, I know it may a little bit be difficult, particularly looking at Nigeria, looking at the nation of Nigeria, looking at the fact that we are coming from a military government. Because the president of Nigeria is more or less a military government. It's more or less a military president. And that's why we are contending that the constitution should be changed. So that's the only fear I have. They ought to have completed the tribunal matter even up to the Supreme Court before you swear in anyone to be in the office. I think that law should be changed. But I said the other time that politicians are only making law for themselves to suit themselves so that they can enjoy the privilege.
Okay, so we must quickly say that the petition filed by by Peter Obi now has the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) as first respondent, Tinubu second respondent, Kashim Shettima third respondent, and the APC as the fourth respondent. Now let's go to the 5 prayers of Peter Obi very quickly. The first prayer says that it be determined that at the time of the presidential election held on 25th February 2023, the second and third respondents were not qualified. We've spoken about that. Yes, that should be determined that all the votes recorded for the second respondent to the election were wasted votes owing to the non-qualification of the second and third respondent. But let's look at the second prayer now. That it be determined that the second respondent, having failed to score 1/4 of the vote cast at the presidential election in the Federal Capital Territory, was not entitled to be declared and returned as winner of the presidential election held on the 25th. We've also spoken about that. Now let's look at the alternative prayers, because the petition is broken into 5 prayers, 2 prayers, and 3 alternative prayers. The first alternative prayer, which is prayer 3, says an order cancelling the election and compelling the first respondent, INEC now, to conduct a fresh election at which the second, third, and fourth respondents shall not participate. Please take us through that thought process.
What he's saying is that the first prayer, the second prayer must have taken, he has taken judicial notice of the first and second prayer. Because when you are saying they are not qualified to contest, they must have been knocked out. He was assuming that they have been knocked out. APC and Tinubu and Shettima must have been knocked out by the facts that he stated above. You understand that? The fact of the narcotic, the fact to come. You know what happened is that law is very dynamic. For instance, if look at the clothes I'm wearing, or let's look at this pen that I'm putting on. If 2 of us are contending about it, so you are saying it is yours, and I'm saying it's mine, you need to prove beyond reasonable doubt that it is yours. And if you prove that it is yours, you must also tell the court that, well, because it is mine, take it from him and give it to me. So what is they're saying in essence is that you have proved beyond reasonable doubt that they are not qualified. So they should not come back again. Keep them in the cooler. Let us recontest this election. And the man understood what he was talking about. He knew that if APC is not there, it's possibly going to be him and the PDP. But in one way, he has also knocked PDP out, because PDP itself didn't have a 25% votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory. By and large, it's going to be only him and possibly some other lesser political parties. Okay, so because of our time, let's rush through the second and third alternative prayers. Alternative prayer 4 now says that it may be determined that the second respondent was not duly elected by a majority of lawful vote cast in the election for the office of president, and the return of the second respondent as the winner are unlawful, unconstitutional, and of no effect whatsoever. That it be determined that based on the valid vote cast at the presidential election, the first petitioner, Peter Obi now, scored the highest number of votes cast at the election, and not less than 1/4 of the votes cast at the election in each of at least 2/3 of all the states in the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, and ought to be declared and returned as winner. 3, an order directing the first respondent to issue the certificate of return to the first petitioner. That it be determined that the certificate of return wrongly issued to the second respondent by the first respondent is null and void. And the 5th one says, the presidential election conducted on 25th February 2023 is void, that the election was not conducted substantially in accordance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022 and Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999. And the second one, an order cancelling the presidential election conducted on 25th February 2023 and mandating the first respondent to conduct a fresh election for the office of president. Now, I know that these are alternative prayers. Like you can either take this or do this or do that, this or do that. What are the chances of this petition sailing through at the tribunal? Let me give it 80% or 90%. And why I'm saying that is that let us consider the issue of the Federal Capital Territory very well. Obi was the only one who scored 67%. All others scored less. One scored about 19%. I think the other scored maybe 11 or something percent. I don't know. In such a matter, in such a case, Obi appeared to be the only one that is qualified. Obi appeared to be the only one that won the election landslide. And I'm going to explain that. By the time you knock out all the votes cast for APC, all the votes cast for PDP, the only thing that remains is the votes cast for who? For Kwankwaso's party and the Labour Party. And by that, he has scored 25% majorly in all the states.
But what about the geographical spread?
It doesn't matter, because other votes have been knocked out. Even if he scored one vote in Sambara State, that one vote stands. That's what we have to understand the law.
Because all
other votes have been knocked out.
That's if the tribunal considers the prayers and knocks out that
all other votes have been knocked out. So it remains only him. So if it's only one vote, that one vote represents the entire either 2 million or 3 million people.
All right.
That's what the law is saying. That's the interpretation of the law.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much. That's quite the position of the law. Really stands to reason that if the vote and the vote of the second and third respondent and the fourth respondents now, the APC, have been knocked out. It means that as it stands, there were only 2 or about that would mean 16 other candidates on the ballot, meaning that those votes will now be shared.
They look at the highest person vote and
be recalculated. All right. Well, thank you very much, Bishop Shea, coordinator of the BY's Council of Clergies in Osun State. Thank you for spending your time with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
But that's the first leg of the interview. When we come back, we'll be looking at the other side of the petition. The People's Democratic Party is also at the tribunal trying to, question. And interestingly, the articles asking for a rerun between himself and Asiwaju, same way Peter Obi is asking for a rerun without Asiwaju in the picture. But to stay with us, we'll bring you our next guest shortly.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Eva is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girl got all the juicy.
Welcome back to the show. It's still Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. We've been looking at the fallout of the presidential election, and now there is a development. There are developments. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, and that of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, have now both filed petitions at the tribunal. We're joined live now by PDP chieftain and, of course, a legal practitioner. And one of the winners, we must say, at the just concluded Osun State House of Assembly elections, Barrister Kami Ajibola. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right. So first of all, what was your assessment of the presidential election and the performance of your candidate in that election?
Hello?
Can you hear me, sir?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Sorry, that line is breaking.
Oh, okay.
We'll get back to you
we'll
then.
get back to him now. We'll get back to Barrister Kami Ajibola. I was saying that he also, won one of the elections here in Osun State for Oreade State constituency, beating Babatunde Desmond Ojo of the APC, who was given the ticket, and the candidate of the PDP is Barrister Kami Ajibola, that of the APC. He has already conceded defeat, one of the few candidates who have congratulated their opponents who won in the election. But then let's look at what we're talking about. A lot of persons were concerned about the situation. Okay, Barrister Ajibola, are you back with us?
Yes, I'm there now.
Okay, so very quickly, I was asking, what do you make of the election considering the performance of your candidate?
Really, under the free, fair atmosphere, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is the winner of the just concluded election. But it was a big pity and regrettable issue in the history of this country that at this century, at this moment, at this period, we'll still be complaining about the irregularity of the INEC, unfairness of the INEC, incompetence of the INEC. What INEC did in just concluded election was a pure charade in the face of law.
All right. On what grounds have you deemed INEC incompetent and unfair?
Yes, first and foremost, the figures computed by INEC and released by them, they are inflated figures. And in many places, we recorded cases of overvoting.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, the conduct, the general conduct and the release of results in the concluded election is purely against the stipulations of the electoral law. And their BIPA system was entirely corrupted to the advantage of the candidate they had in mind that they wanted to rig the election for. That election was rigged. It was purely unfair.
All right, so we're looking at the issue on the national scale now, talking about the PDP and its candidate in the presidential election. So now your party has gone to court, to the tribunal, to challenge the result of that election. How do you see that petition performing at the tribunal before we get into the prayers and alternative prayers now?
Yeah, first and foremost, the nomination, the joint ticket of Tinubu and Shettima is having problems. Because as at the time Shettima was nominated for vice presidency, he was having dual nomination before in the INEC. And that is against the law. Notwithstanding whether the candidature of Tinubu is legally okay, if that of his deputy is faulty in the face of law, it affects both of them.
Is there judicial precedence for that, Mr. Ajibola?
Yes, there is. There is a case in Bayelsa where I've forgotten the name of the case, where the deputy governor was having issue and the Supreme Court disqualified him. The disqualification affected the governor that did not have any issue.
Okay, so now let's look at the prayers of Atiku Abubakar in his petition that was written to the tribunal. One of the prayers is that he be declared winner of the election. Why do you think Atiku is claiming to be winner? Why should he be declared winner of that election on the basis of law?
Yes, Atiku won the election, and he will be declared under the free, fair running of our judicial system. Under free running of our judicial system, Atiku will be declared. Because by the time you deduct all the inflated figure, you cancel where folks were. Hello?
I'm with you. Go ahead.
Okay. You cancel the over 14 states, surprise everything from the figures on ground. Atiku will be leading by overwhelming figures. And one of the reasons why the victory of Tinubu cannot be sustained, there's a particular angle of it that brings the concern of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, particularly on the issue of having 2/3 of the total votes cast in the Federal Capital Territory. It is a constitutional issue.
Okay.
So the victory of Tinubu cannot stand the law.
All right. So one of the prayers of Atiku Abubakar is also maintaining that the election of Tinubu as winner was invalid by reason of non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, saying that Tinubu's election was invalid by reason of corrupt practices. What are some of those corrupt practices that is making Atiku say that Tinubu's victory is invalid?
One of these is just the one I just said. Inflation. Yes, figure inflation. And not mixing up the constitutional requirement of election, particularly that of the Federal Capital Territory. It is a constitutional matter. Nothing anybody can do about it.
But the APC, the PDP rather now, also won in Osun State. Is that result to your taste as a party and as a member of your party?
Yeah, no, the INEC official detached Osun State did their job in consonance with the stipulation of the law and INEC regulation. We had a good result in Osun, and there was no fair play in Osun because they knew that Osun State, as at now, is a PDP state, and nobody can come and reach where a candidate is popular.
All right. So let's also check out some of the things that Atiku joined the Asiwaju Tinubu as a second respondent, the vice presidential candidate Kashim Shettima as a third, and the fourth respondent is the APC. Now also INEC is in that suit. What is your assessment of INEC's performance so far, considering all of the issues that are now coming out of the presidential election?
On a general estimation and valuation of the just completed election, INEC performed woefully. And nobody expected at this period in time in Nigeria that we'll be having that type of INEC system in our operation. It's extremely pathetic.
Okay, so what are your hopes now from this whole lawsuit? What are your hopes? What do you think the PDP will make out of this?
By the special grace of God, under the free and fair running of our judicial system, PDP will win the case and Atiku will be declared the president. Under the free running of our legal system, I know what I'm telling you now, my Fasasi did.
All right. So let me take you to the petition of the Labour Party. The Labour Party is asking that the court threw out Atiku Abubakar, by implication now saying that the second, third respondent and fourth respondent are not qualified, and then there should be a rerun of the election without the APC, and the cancellation of the results entirely. If there is a rerun, would it suit your party?
Yeah.
And your party is saying that there should be a rerun between just Atiku and Asiwaju.
No, the issue is the candidature of Tinubu and Shettima cannot stand the ground of law. They are disqualified. By virtue of dual nomination of Shettima as at the time of that election. So they are legally disqualified, both of them. So, and there is no even issue for rerun because Atiku and PDP had met all the requirements of law that will enable him get declared as the winner of that election.
All right, Barrister Kami Ajibola, I would like to thank you so much for your time on the show this morning. Barrister Kami Ajibola is a legal practitioner and a member of the PDP, member-elect of the House of Assembly for Irade State Constituency. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
You're welcome, sir.
Well, that's the interest in everybody's calling for rerun, everybody's calling for cancellation of the results. I mean, do you think that we have legal fireworks to look forward to in the coming weeks?
Yes, we do. And I don't think that a rerun will be possible. I don't think that the court will want to rule in favor of that. But then let's see how these people can plead their case at the court and see how they can, bring out strong evidences to back up every of their claims. And let's see if it's going to, shape or give another tone to the election process in Nigeria.
Well, some persons have attempted to draw lines between the Kashim Shettima case that was raised by Peter Obi and that of Senate President Ahmed Lawan. The difference is actually very clear. At the time Shettima was nominated to be vice president, he already had a ticket for Borno Central Senatorial District. On the other hand, Ahmed Lawan was in Abuja contesting for APC's presidential ticket while the primaries for Yobe North was ongoing. So he didn't participate in two primaries. He didn't have two tickets at the time. When he lost out of the APC presidential ticket race, he wanted to go back to go, participate, but the primaries had already been concluded, and then some party magic, happened. Up until the Court of Appeal, the proper thing was done. The Court of Appeal ruled that you did not participate in that primary, the initial primary, the original one, and so you don't have a ticket. So it's actually very different from Kashim Shettima, who had dual, according to the LP, and of course what it is, dual tickets. People are saying that he resigned a day after, but at the time you accepted the nomination first. You, even if it was for 2 hours, you held dual nominations. So that's the difference between Kashim Shettima's case and that of Ahmed Lawan. But that's where we leave the show this morning. I will be coming back to tell you, to give you what's trending. That's an abridged version. Take you back to the 21st of March when we started seeing some results, from the presidential elections, and also take you through Namani's mental, I don't want to say meltdown on Twitter and some of the reaction. And of course, Sheon Oshawa, who said that it took him, the advert that led to, the bigotry was 16,000, and that he was going to donate 32,000 naira to the Igbos and victims of political violence. So I'll come back to give you what's trending. Very funny. All right, Temitope Ajibola is my name. Thanks for joining us today on the Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. I'm Temitope Ajibola. The end.
arrested, affected,